You will never reach your athletic dreams because of this one thing, your running form. From reaching your PR to avoiding career-ending injuries, the key to sports success lies in developing perfect form. Now, if you're thinking, Danny, I'm not a runner, I have no need of this information, you may want to hold your horses. See, all sports have at least one technique and at least one skill that is crucial to performance in that sport. Whether it's shooting a basketball, kicking a soccer ball, or throwing a frisbee, the pros know that these skills are necessary if they're going to compete at all. They also know what it takes to develop those skills. They'll spend countless hours training in their backyards just to slightly refine one of these skills. But for most professional athletes, they understand that their entire sport is not that one skill, or maybe those few skills, but that all sports rely on fundamental human movement, one of those being running. So just like throwing or jumping, all athletes need to be able to run, and form plays a critical role in not only preventing injury, but also succeeding in the sport as a whole. So before committing to spending the thousands of hours that are necessary to master the specific techniques of your sport, make sure you master these aspects of your running form first. Focus on your posture. Having poor posture can cause a plethora of problems in athletic performance and even in regular life. The poorer our posture, the greater effect gravity has on our bodies, and over time will break down our ability to function properly. That makes it all the more important for performing well in sports. So to improve posture, keep your head up. It's easy to lower our head in sports as it feels more defensive and even comfortable at times. After sitting at our desks and looking at our phones all day, the neutral position for our head seems to be looking down, but that's not the case, and it will cause damage on the spine over time. But keeping your head up does not guarantee that your spine remains aligned. You need to intentionally focus on keeping it straight. It's helpful to imagine a wire pulling at the top of your head, keeping everything straight, like you're a puppet, and the string on your head was the only thing keeping you upright. So make sure you're intentionally keeping the upper spine from collapsing and keep it in more of an extended position if possible. Now, there will be a natural curvature to the upper portion of the spine, so it doesn't need to be straight as an arrow. In fact, don't make it as straight as an arrow, as that would be improper posture as well. You're also going to want to stay relaxed. A lot of posture tutorials out there will tell you to bring your shoulders back and then drop them. That's not relaxed either. Your shoulders need to be in a neutral position, and that may even look different from person to person. You don't need to pull your shoulder blades back, but just keep everything relaxed. If your shoulders are being pulled forward and you're not in a neutral position when you're relaxed, then there may be some imbalances in your body that we need to take care of first. You also want to make sure that your pelvis is in alignment. A typical issue we see today is anterior pelvic tilt, where you have a sort of duck butt sticking out. It's easy to notice this if you stand up and you feel as though your stomach is pushing forward and your butt is sticking back out. A simple way to align your pelvis is to flex your glutes and tighten your abs, and you'll feel that your pelvis aligns. Maintain that position even when you relax the glutes again. You shouldn't have to have them flexed at all times, but it's a good way to evaluate whether your posture is where it needs to be. So now that we have posture down, let's move down to foot strike. The majority of runners today, and even other athletes, tend to strike on their heels when they land. Most of it is due to footwear, which I won't go into too much detail in this video, but striking on your heel is extremely inefficient for performance. You're not very springy and you're not very bouncy when you're jumping on your heels or landing on them. It's essentially putting on the brakes when running or cutting. Those brakes cancel out any momentum you have going in your direction, which may seem good if you're cutting, but it's not directing that momentum back in the opposite direction either. It's just a hard stop, which sends a shock up your body through the ankles, knees, hips, and even back. So instead of striking on your heels, you're going to want to strike on your midfoot. Some people will say that forefoot strike is the best. I would tend to disagree, as it takes more time for your foot to land and then eventually push off of the forefoot again. If you're landing at the midfoot, you can easily roll into that forefoot position and then push off of the big toe to generate as much force and power as possible. You're going to want to make sure that you're keeping your center of gravity directly above your foot at the moment it strikes the ground. If your center of gravity is behind your foot when it strikes, you're most likely heel striking, and even if you're not, you're still putting the brakes on. So as your foot hits the ground, make sure that it's landing flat or more on the balls of the foot, and it is directly below your center of gravity. That way, as your momentum pushes you forward, you'll be able to push off that leg and repeat the process. Studies have shown that injury rates in those who heel strike in sports are way higher, as you're constantly sending forces up your leg in a way that it's not supposed to. The impact is being absorbed improperly and in places where it shouldn't, causing damage to the muscles, bones, and even connective tissue, which can result in acute injuries or even chronic ones that don't immediately show up. Another important aspect of running form is your running cadence. Now, this is often known to increase running economy or efficiency, and I like to call it the flow state of movement. it becomes significantly easier to keep moving in the direction you're going than it even would be to stop. And that's because your body is starting to move in such a natural way that every time your foot strikes the ground, the next one follows smoothly without any break in the movement. And even this efficiency does not apply only to racing. It can apply to any sport where there's consistent movement in one direction, such as soccer or even football. There are many drills that can be done to improve this kind of cadence and rhythm, but again, I'm not going to go into too much detail on that in this video. One of the goals of increasing your running cadence is to decrease the amount of vertical movement there is when you're moving and maintain a straight horizontal pattern with every stride. That decreases the amount of wasted energy on moving up and down and transfers all of that force into moving forward, which is what you want to do. I mean, just look at him go.
The strength of the 1500 man, an 800 meter run gives him the wins.
Like a gazelle. And then we have the most overlooked aspect of running form, the arms. The most important thing to remember here is you want your arms moving in the same direction that you're moving. Keep them parallel with each other and not swinging around side to side. You want them to remain at around 90 degrees with the majority of the movement being in the shoulders. As you're moving your arms when running, you also want to keep them relaxed. Just like your posture, you don't want to tighten up your traps and have your shoulders shrugged up tight or clench your fists and squeeze them. You want to keep your hands nice and loose and relaxed, as well as your shoulders dropped down, so that when you're swinging your arms, they're just following in step with your legs. Obviously, opposite arm, opposite leg. And letting your arms just kind of sit there and move naturally is going to improve your running cadence and preserve a lot of energy. I've seen plenty of athletes waste all their energy on shrugging their shoulders and clenching their fists, and maybe even pumping their arms, but in all the wrong ways that just end up wasting their energy instead of applying it in a way that's going to help them perform. And this again applies to all sports. Whenever you're making a movement in your specific sport, be intentional about what your arms are doing. If you need to move quickly, your arms should be moving along with your legs. Don't just have them sitting there or in whatever position they need to be once you get to where you're going. Use them on the way. Now, whether you're a sprinter, marathoner, or football, frisbee, or volleyball player, perfect form is not going to be easy to achieve. But once you get it, you'll be well on your way to unlocking your athletic potential. But you're probably still unsure about what specific steps to take in order to actually improve your form. Patience, young one. I'm going to go into much more detail in the following videos, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, go be human.